My name is Brandon Peavy, and I would like to share um, miracles that God has worked and is working in my life. I'll just jump in. At a very young age, I was exposed to pornography and sexual activity. And throughout life, just kind of growing up, trials, troubles, and things like that, I kind of developed patterns of coping and numbing pain, and I became good at hiding that, stuff that I would do, and I began to run the gamut of abusing substances as well, and I that eventually landed on pain pills as kind of a drug of choice, so to speak, and wasn't long I found myself in a shame cycle of, to numb the pain of the world and just, life, I would, do drugs, and to numb the pain of the drugs, I would watch porn, and to take away the shame that I felt from doing that, I would do more drugs, and it just was, it felt like an endless cycle. It's worth pointing out that in the middle of my mess, God called me out of darkness and into His light, and He revealed my sin to me, and I knew that Jesus was my Savior, but I also knew that meant the things that I was doing were bad, and I knew that they were bad. Somewhere along the way, my beautiful bride, she was my friend in this period of life. This was before we got married, but God He caused us to cross paths early on in life, in high school, and we stayed in communication, and then here she came back into my life, into my city that I lived in, and in a very huge way, God kind of slowed me down and kind of put us, I guess, in each other's presence, and we started hanging out, and she knew, and she could see, and she knew who I really was, and she could see she knew about the pain pills, she knew about the drugs, and she really came alongside me, and I'm sure said countless prayers for me, and any victory, she was there cheering me on, and by the grace of God, I was able to walk away from that addiction, and that is really something that God. It's there was hard work and hard times, and I felt the effects, but I did not have to go through rehab. I did not have to. I was able to stop, and like I said, there was pain, and there were hard nights in the beginning, but He took that away by His grace. Fast forward about a year and a half after that, and we're married, and and I, out of kind of just knowing, hey, I'm married now. This is where porn stops, because now I'm married, and that's kind of what you think, like, I got a wife now. What do I need porn for? What do I need, anything like that for? And for about a year or so, I was able to distance myself from that part of who I was, in a way, but slowly but surely, that pattern of numbing pain and numbing life and numbing, just numbing out anything, started to creep its way back in, and it wasn't porn at first, and then it was, and then before I knew it, I was crossing lines in real life, and I was just putting my marriage in jeopardy. At this point, we had our son, Jude, and I was putting his ability at growing up with both of his parents at jeopardy. And so you can imagine just the cycle of shame. And all the while, I know who God is, and but because of this cycle of shame, and because of how heavy this was, and because of how in the darkness and in the secret it all was, it was hard for me to believe who that I am, who God says that I am. And really, even to get to believe there, I would have to be, truly exposing myself to his truth. And if I'm honest, I wasn't doing that in full because I had so much junk in my heart. And so I want to be clear. I did not have a physical affair, but I got way too close. And God, in his grace, in his wisdom, in his sovereignty, caused it to be exposed. And in a way that Sally had no clue. She knew the victories that I'd had over pain pills and just that whole kind of rough way of living, but she had no clue anything like this was coming her way. And so I say my miracles are, it's a miracle that I'm still a Christian, and it's a miracle that my marriage is still standing. It's a miracle that my marriage is still standing because early on in our marriage, I think, 2.5, 3 years on in our marriage, it all comes out on the table. And the reason I believe, it's a miracle that our marriage is still standing is because Sally, having every reason to walk away, rightfully so, chose to stay with me. And I believe that God put the grace in her heart. I don't think she mustered that up. I think that God blessed our marriage with that, and put the grace in her heart to step into forgiveness and not close up. And I believe that God gave me the grace to begin this journey of telling the truth, of getting it out there, of not living with secrets and not living with lies. And so now here we are, and it's like, well, where do you go from here? And it was pretty evident that I needed professional help. And so in seeking that help, I came across the term sexual addiction. And I had to come to terms with this truth, with this reality, with the reality of addiction, with the reality of my life is out of control. I no longer care about self-control. Or at least I want people to think that I do. But in the secret, when I need to take care of me, I don't care about it. And I had walked away from that. And truly my life had gotten to that point because of sin that was just left unchecked, unconfessed. And like I said, I was just finding every excuse to justify it. The miracle that I'm still a Christian is God allowed for these things to be exposed and set me on a path of truly walking in the light and truly walking in a manner worthy of my calling, to follow him and to give him everything. And so honestly, it wasn't, I wouldn't say until about 2 years after all of that that I can say the stronghold of sexual addiction was broken in my life. And the way that the Lord did that is he gave me a love for his word. Growing up, the last thing I wanted to do was read a book. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want anything to do with reading. Please don't make me read. And suddenly I just cared about reading, and ultimately just his word and understanding like what a miracle it is that we have his communication word for word from him, from the creator of the universe. And knowing that caused my eyes to be open to the fact that Jesus is my treasure, my greatest treasure. There is nothing greater. There's nothing sweeter. There is nothing better. And so having my eyes open to that reality, really, I was able to understand, and I finally felt what it felt like for my mind to be renewed, to not be exercising some sort of restraint, to not be trying to muster up a strength, or to do anything on my own, but to know that when I'm walking with the Lord, and that I really don't stand a chance by myself. I really don't stand a chance by myself. And so I need people around me. I need people that I can talk to. So during those 2 years, and then when the Lord it just feels like just kind of took the veil away and just kind of opened my eyes to really his goodness and how great he is. I was able to see the depth of my sin, the pain that it has caused. And a lot of times I would stop there, and that's where the shame would begin. But because of the love of his word and Jesus being my greatest treasure, you continue on in the word, and you read things about who you are, that God says that you are. You read things about the power that's been given to us, the same power that raised Christ from the grave. You read things about the weapons that we have to take down the strongholds. They're divine. They're from him. You read things that, like 1 Peter chapter 1, where God talks about he is guarding us. We're guarded by his power. Romans 8:30, when those he predestined, he called. Those he called, he justified. Those he justified, he glorified. We're moving from glory to glory. So I don't have to live in the shame anymore. I don't have to believe my life is so messed up and I am worthless and just all of these things that would pile on day after day. I don't have to believe these things anymore. I can keep reading in his word and I can know who I am because he says it. It's who he says that I am. And so that's the miracle that God is working in my life, because I still feel the effects and I still feel temptation. It's still very real. But sin, my life looks so different. Sin does not go unchecked or unconfessed. I do not walk in the darkness anymore. There is no hiding the sin. You have to make war. You have to be active. We cannot be passive. And so that is what God is doing in my life. And he will be doing that until I see Jesus face to face.